Welcome back to the Aussie Shed, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode of Project Fairlady. So today, hopefully we'll be able to get some paint in this engine bay. As you can see here, I've been rubbing down the 2-pack primer with 800 wet and dry. It's all been unmasked because a lot of the masking had 2-pack primer on it, which was flaking off when you sort of blow the air on it. I didn't want any chance of any of that contaminating the new paintwork. Plus it was wet and a bit soggy in places where I'd been rubbing down and cleaning up, obviously. Big job, takes a lot of hours. Took about that many cans of bourbon. So, let's see, probably an hour per can. I reckon I can't drink real fast while you're doing something like this. So I reckon that's about how long it took me. Lots of little corners to get into, you know, like your fingertips end up bleeding by the end of it if you're trying to do it, you know, pretty decent job of it. Didn't do myself any favours. I don't know if you noticed, but my gun started playing up during the time when I was getting the primer on, and it was painting a bit dry, so I had a few issues with some dry spots that, you know, just means there's a lot more sanding in certain areas. To get it right, to get the right finish on it that you need before you put paint on it. So this is where I'm at, folks. I'm about to remask it all, and then the painter's going to come in, have a bit of a look at it, and hopefully we'll be able to start getting some beautiful, beautiful metallic silver on it. So I'll get that done, and hopefully I'll be back when the painter's here. See you shortly. It's a new lovely day here in the Aussie Shed, ladies and gentlemen. And I've just been busy setting up, trying to stay ahead of the painter before he turns up this morning. Start putting some paint on the old girl. As you can see, we're all sort of plasticked. We can just kind of move in. And you can see that we're all, everything's sort of covered up. It's all sealed up really well. I just thought while I'm waiting here, I'll just run you through what I've actually done here to set the Aussie Shed up for painting. So these plastic curtains on the side, they're quite thick plastic. They're like basically concrete underlay plastic. I think they're 200 micron, which is 0.2 of a millimeter, which is pretty thick for plastic, you know. They're quite heavy. They're not sort of light stuff like these sort of hardware style drop sheets that you kind of get. They're really thick stuff. So what I've done with them is I've got some 35mm PVC conduit that's holding them at the top. So what I've done is I've laid the sheets down on the ground, and then I've attached them to some PVC conduit. I've taped them with some 3M tape right the way along, and then rolled them up 3 or 4 times, and then cable tied them so they stay rolled up sort of thing. So I've got this really nice tight thing that actually tightens up on the pipe as you pull on it. Then I've lifted those up, and then I've cable tied those with some really heavy cable ties to those battens up there, those steel battens. So there's no way any of this can sort of come down. It's really, really super strong. And at the moment, I've got them just draped on the ground with some weights sort of along the bottom. And because all the shelving and the bench and everything is steel, it means I can use neodymium magnets to just kind of, you know, stick it back in places so that it's sort of fairly under control. Same deal on this side, you know, and it's all sort of pretty good. It's all pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it all. It means that in future I won't really have to necessarily pull this down. I should be able to set up something on the bottom and be able to roll them up, so that if I'm not using them, I can roll them and store them, you know, up the very top there. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know at the moment. Now, as far as how I'm going to control the air in here when we start painting, you can see I have a big workshop fan here. And then down the back, I have another extraction fan. We'll go down there and have a bit of a look. And sorry folks, I misspoke then. It's not actually an extraction fan. How it's set up is I've got this other door here. That's not the real back door for the Aussie Shed. The real back door is swung open, and then this door is fitted into the rebate. And then sitting on top of that, I have this fan. Now, this fan I pulled out of a job I did a while back. It was part of an underfloor ventilation system, and the fan had failed, and all the bearings were shot in it. It was really noisy, and the people could hear it from inside the house. All the casing was kind of really rusty. It was just a bit of a mess. So what I did, I put a whole new setup in the house, but instead of throwing this out, I thought, oh, it might come in handy for something at some point. it just relies on me putting in the time and effort to rebuild the thing, which I've done. So I've put all new bearings and stuff in it, and I've rust-proofed all the casing and repainted it and everything. And the reason being, it's quite a powerful fan, and it has a very large filter on the back of it. So what I'm using it for, it's blowing air into the Aussie shed, so it's kind of forcing air in through a filter on the back. So after it's been running for a while, all the air in the shed here has no sort of particles floating around in it. It's very, very clean. And then I use that fan up there to then carry the air out through the roller door and out of the shed. So I sussed it out when I was priming in here, and it does a really good job of keeping everything clear while you're painting. Like it takes all of the overspray and everything away, but yet doesn't affect you in a way that you don't have any air blowing onto you or anything, you know. So it's not a pain in the ass in that way. Like it just seems to work really, really well. I'm a bit bored waiting for the painter, so I might take you out the back and show you the back side of this sucker. Bear with me. Alright, so this is out the back of the door. As you can see, that's the real door for the back of the Aussie shed. It's a very heavily reinforced steel door. And this door here is just a cheap internal door from a house that I've just slipped into the opening. And then this is the back of the fan there. You can see, I don't know if you can see, it's hard for me to suss things out on this little tiny screen, but there's a really big filter setup in the back of it that I've kind of all cleaned out and rebuilt all the backing behind it and stuff. And you can see I've thrown a bit of tape around it just to make sure it's not, you know, got air gaps to suck shit in. It's using these things on the back of the door to hold it in position, and the door's wedged at the bottom, so these guys are actually doing all the work holding the door in. It does sit in there quite well under its own weight. And what these things are is when I shut the door, because it's a shed door and it's hinged on the outside, that means that you can, if you want to get in, you can just cut the hinges off on the outside. But what they do is once the door's locked, they wrap around the rebate on the steel jamb. And so what that means is if the door's shut and you cut the hinges off, you still can't get the door off. There's you know, quite a few security features like that with the shed, as you would expect, because you don't really want people breaking into your shed when you've got all your stuff in here. Bad experience in the past, guys. I've had a previous shed broken into, lost a bit of gear, so I'm very, very particular when it comes to securing the shed. Anyway, I just thought I'd show you the back of that, how I've got it all set up. It's all pretty simple stuff. Didn't really cost any money to do, a couple of bucks, but you know, no big deal. But it gives me a good system of, what would you call it, flow through air inside the shed. Alright, I'll turn this back on when the painter gets here and we'll see how that starts to go. Alright everyone, we're set up and we're ready to go. This is Mark, he's a painter, so obviously we can't show his face. Say good day, Mark. We're going to get into it, so we'll cut to some actual painting footage. So what Mark's starting there with is just a grey shade base coat, just to even up the surface underneath before we start laying down the silver base coat. This shouldn't take him too long the way he works. Look at him going there, he's like a demon. And very shortly we'll start putting on some of that delicious silver. This is our silver base coat. Beautiful, beautiful looking stuff there. Doesn't that look delicious? Nissan Z32 factory colour for the Fairlady. So Mark's about to start laying down some coats of that. He's going to be laying down 4 coats, and then once that dries off, he'll be then laying down 2 coats of high solid clear. And once he gets all that done, I will get back to you guys. But in the meantime, I'll throw a bit of music on and you can sit back and watch Mark paint the engine bay of the Fairlady. Back soon. it's a couple of hours later now, folks. Mark's gone home, and I'm going to start pulling all this masking off, particularly because I've used this green dodgy hardware store masking tape underneath the top stuff, and it tends to not want to come off if it's been on there for a few days, which it already actually has been on there for a few days. So I thought, oh, I won't waste any time. I'll get all this stuff off right now before it becomes a real pain in the bum to get off later. And then we'll take a bit of a pan across what she all looks like. Alrighty. Another couple of days have since passed, guys. I've been busying myself with doing a few little things here. I've repainted in the front inner guard areas, both sides of course, and I've also painted down through the transmission tunnel up to where the new engine bay paint finishes and everything, and started replacing some of the factory grommets and such in areas, because basically all the old factory rubber grommets have been removed and I've gotten hold of all new ones. So you know, basically everything is being renewed on the vehicle as the sort of assembly process begins. So what I might just quickly do, guys, is lift it right up and I'll show you the extent of the paintwork that we've done and how smick it's turned out. So give me a sec, I'll get this thing up and we'll have a look underneath. This is what she's looking like now, guys. Not bad. We've painted right up under the headlights everywhere. All up under this front chassis. Up under the front cross member. All up under here. Plenty of colour. Plenty of clear coat. And then in under our wheel arches there. You can see that's the line that I've used to swap colours on that line there. And when we sort of come in here again, you can see what it looks like. It's all very, very nice. Very nice indeed. Mark has done a fantastic job. I am absolutely over the moon. Could not be happier with it. Coming down here into the transmission tunnel. You can see a line there that I've used to break up the two, where we now disappear under the car down through there, which I've just finished repainting all that as well. Most of that was done previously, but I've now finished it on this end and joined it all up, so it's looking very, very nice. Alright, I'll pull this down and I'll give you a quick goodbye. So I think that's a wrap, guys. Oh, it's not actually a wrap, it's a paint. Obviously I'd like to thank Mark for doing such a great job on the paint work, Scotty for working behind the scenes to make it all happen, and of course you guys for sticking with me throughout Project Fairlady. So from here, guys, I think in the next episode I'll probably start piecing a few things together. I might start with the main body loom, get that in, you know, formulate a bit of a plan of where to next with it all. But one thing's for certain, there is plenty to do. As always, guys, I'll bloody well see you on the next one. Cheers.